Hello and welcome back to the Delve podcast. Today, we're doing the second installment of our series, The Psychology of Applying for Jobs. This one is the one about identity. We're going to be talking all things failure, identity, status, and my big old feelings. I'm Allie. I'm a staff therapist here at Delve Psychotherapy of Chicago.
And I'm Adam. I'm the Executive and Clinical Director at Delve Psychotherapy of Chicago, trying to match Allie's pep.
On my level, Adam, please do share our podcast. We rely on word of mouth, so it'd be much appreciated. Do follow us on Instagram at Delve Psych Chicago, and do check out our Substack, delvepsych.substack.com. Some really great topics over there. Here at Delve Psych, we offer individual, couples, group, and family therapy. If you're interested in a free consultation call, head on over to delvepsych.com. That's DELVEPSYCH.com.
Yep. Do all those things. Also, this reminds me, I have to write a Substack today. We'll get to it.
I love that. I think it's impressive how many blog posts you guys can churn out, because for me, I feel like, I don't know, I can only really write if like something like strikes me, if like creativity strikes, versus like forcing, I don't know what I'm going to write. You know, it's harder to be like, okay, what am I writing today? Versus, oh, you know what? I was inspired and it just flew out of me, you know?
Well, I feel like I have been playing the why game since I was 3 years old. Like, you know how you talk to a 3-year-old and they just start asking you why? Well, why do butterflies exist? And like, you just keep going down that pathway. I think most kids grow out of that, and I just didn't. And so I've been thinking about this stuff for a long time and trying to figure out some of the answers to some of the whys as best I can. So I think that's what's happening.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's still you. You still do that.
Yeah.
Which I think is cool. I mean, it's good to have like a curious mind about things and ask questions, you know, existential questions about why things are. Somebody's got to do it.
Yeah, it's a fun way to spend some time, and it's helped me to build this business and figure out a couple of things along the way. So who knows? I could be dead ass wrong about all of it. I don't think so, but trust me, dear listener, I'm probably not dead ass wrong about all of it.
Yeah, some things. He's right
I'm probably
about.
dead ass wrong about some of
them. Okay, so we did our first installment a few weeks back about the psychology of applying for jobs. That one was a little bit more logistical about like how to go about doing the thing, right?
And how to manage your emotions through the motivation side of things.
Yes, the motivational part. This one is going to be more about identity, and all the things that come along with that, failure, status, and just all the emotions that come around identity. And I think this is going to be a really applicable topic for a lot of our audience, because I know things are hard out there. So let's talk about it. Where do you want to start?
Yeah. So, Allie, I'm your boss, and your job is safe. I swear to you, and I promise you. But I'm curious, like, if you found out tomorrow that you lost your job, what would that do to you?
I'd probably have a existential crisis. No, I don't know.
And why does a job do that to us? You know, like on some level, we could imagine. Yeah, let's walk through that. Why does a job do that to us?
I think especially in the US, I don't know, I can't speak for other places in the world, but I think especially for the US, our jobs are so much tied to our identities. You know, like when we meet new people, it's like, oh, what's your name? Oh, what do you do? Right? That's like the second question when we meet somebody.
Which we should do an episode on that sometime, because I think we've got to start to drift away from that line of questioning. But anyway, carry on.
No, I agree. It's like, but I think it's just like an easy way to kind of like categorize people, right? Like if I say I'm a lawyer, you already have some sort of like stereotypes in your mind about like who I am, what I'm like, how much money I make, my just status in the world. So yeah, when you lose that, you're sort of just like floating in the middle of the ocean with no buoy to like grab onto.
Right, right. Yeah, I think about one of the ideas with regard to kind of your internal system and your broader identity being. So the metaphor I use is the pillars of your life. And so you could imagine that you are something of a platform being held up by various pillars. And some of those pillars could be the money that you have in your bank account, or the family ties that you have back home, or the friendships that are around you, or your job, or your degree. Those are things that provide something tangible in your life. Your car, if you have a car, those are things that provide you something tangible in your life. And losing one of those things ends up being like a minor, not complete destabilization, but a little bit of a destabilization. Let's say, for instance, you lose your passport. Well, if you're in your home nation, not that big of a deal. It's annoying. You probably should get another one, especially in these times. But you imagine losing your passport if you're in another country, all of a sudden, that's a pretty material change. It's a pretty big deal. And so a job is quite similar in that way, where it's like one of these things that's holding up your kind of your structure in your life more broadly. That's why things like losing a marriage, or the kids moving out of the house, or even a pet or something of that nature ends up, or shifting where you live, anything like that is sort of so destabilizing, because we're held up by these pillars of our life, and seeing them degrade in their strength or fall out completely leaves you a little wobbly.
Yeah, I think because, well, and we've talked about this, how like you don't exist in a vacuum, and like your identity is made up of like the people you co-create your identity with. And so I feel like, especially like identity, it's hard to say who I am without all of the things outside of me, right? Because it's like easier to like be like, okay, I have this like certain car that says that I make X amount of money, or I live in this certain kind of home that says this about me. I do this for a job that says a certain thing about me. If you strip everything away and you are just a person floating in space, yeah, who are you? Ugh.
Exactly. So we have to be tethered to something. And you can think about this even through the lens of something like film or media too, where in improv classes, I had a teacher who loved to say, you never start the film at the end with the wedding, right? So you're sitting there and it's like da 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 da, and there's the two people getting married and they're weeping and they're having a lovely time. The audience member is sitting there going like, I don't know these people. And so I don't know them. I'm not invested
Yes.
in them. I've got no relationship with them. So the entirety of the journey is the kind of the connective tissue to like, who are these people connected to? What are they connected to? What matters to them? And so why should I care? Which is me creating a parasocial relationship with them simultaneously. And so again, it's like the surroundings of our life are the things that give us substance, and you get that in a kind of a microcosmy kind of way when you're watching a film. Do you end up caring about the characters? If so, it's because they built out the substance and made them feel real. And part of that is going to be, their relationships, as you're kind of indicating, and part of it is also going to be their job.
Yeah.
And like, how do they make a living, and does that even seem plausible or realistic, et cetera, and so on. Like people are watching for that sort of stuff, which means that we're kind of programmed in a way to, one, have to be connected to many, many, many other things in order to give ourselves some kind of structure and substance. But two, there are specific other things that we're either programmed or socially and systemically steered toward as the things that provide us our substance.
Yeah. And so it's interesting, right? The people that like when they do lose a job, it just are totally upended and it's like, I don't even know who I am anymore.
because job is me, because it is
yes,
identity.
right, right. Which is interesting, right? Because does that mean you are also not like husband, friend, brother, other things that make up who you are? Like, yes, the job is a big tether, is a big pillar, as you were saying. But there are other things that make up your identity. I think about this in working with actors. Like, if actor is the entire identity, is the entire pie, right? When we are not booking anything, which is most of the time,
Uh-huh.
then how do we feel about ourselves? Pretty bad, pretty bad. And so I encourage, like, let's break up the pie into other pieces. What other things are important to you and who you are as a person? Okay, I am a daughter, I am a sister, I am a friend, I am a romantic partner. Okay, how can I be good at doing those things? Let's focus on doing those things and feel good at doing those things while my career piece is a little up in the air. I think that can really help. Yeah, those are my thoughts.
I think that's absolutely spot on. You have to think about living the entirety of your life at all moments in time. It's a big thing for graduate students as well, where they're like, my life will begin when I graduate. And for, I did a PhD. Sometimes that's 5, 6, 7 years away. You're going to put 7 years of your one life on hold while you're doing all of these things. Acting could take even longer than that. And this is a little bit of a tangent, but also for actors, you think about what roles are you going to be up for. So if you are a young female identified actor, what kinds of roles are you going to be up for? You're probably going to be a sister, a daughter, an employee. Those are the things that you're going to be asked to portray. And so if you're coming in as only an actor, then and you have no other substance to your life, how's it going to look when you're trying to portray the reality of life to other people? You're trying to be a kind of vessel or a window back into the being, the being that is watching you, the one that is living the normal life that isn't an actor. You're trying to show them their life on some level, but your kind of portrayal of living that life. And so you have to live that life. You have to live your life. You have to be a daughter. You have to be a partner. You have to be a pet owner. You have to do all of these things so that you have something to show. And then I will also say for improvisers specifically, that stuff, that all those little things that you're doing in your life, put that on stage, because they don't know that that just happened to you on Thursday. And so if you just demonstrate to them the thing that you just experienced on Thursday, or whatever weird, fascination you just had, it's novel to the audience and it's got depth and richness and substance, because you're just showing them what you've experienced. So the more you live your life, the more that you can artistically display.
Yeah. Yeah. The most interesting actors are the ones that have a full life outside of being an actor. It's not interesting to just show up and be like, I'm an actor. That's all I do is act, and I have nothing else.
Yeah. You sense the kind of emptiness behind that.
Yes, because you can bring other facets of your life into the craft. Sorry. Anyways, that was a tangent.
No, absolutely. Hey, maybe we should do this episode. It's been interesting to kind of dabble in that part of the world a little bit. And now the Instagram feed has started to send me all of the like acting videos and portrayals. I'm not a professional actor. I'm not trying to be, well, I guess I've gotten small amounts of money for individual little jobs.
There you go.
So I'm a dilettante. I'm a pretender. But anyway, this is very much a side project for me, but it's interesting to kind of dabble in that world a little bit, because I think there's so much psychology in it.
Oh, 100%. So, let's say we do lose our job, right? And we're feeling a certain type of way about it, because we're just questioning everything now. We're questioning our skill set at this thing that we thought we were good at, even if it had nothing to do with our skill set and it was just like, layoffs. We're questioning, like, let's say we were the head of household and we really identified with the role of provider, and now we literally cannot provide right now. What do we do with that? yeah, I'll start there with those those two questions.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think there's a question of how do we cope. One of the things I'll say related to that last conversation as well is I had one client back in the day. I'm going to choose cricket. I'm going to say cricket was their hobby. But they had a big hobby in playing cricket, and they wanted to play cricket all the time. They had convinced themselves that they needed to be applying for jobs all the time. And so now is not the time to be playing cricket. And if I tell my partner that I played cricket all day instead of applying to jobs, then they're going to be so furious at me for wasting time. I need to find a job. So they never played cricket. Luckily, I got through to them before the time that they eventually did get a job. But my counter argument was, you still need to live the entirety of your life now. And so if this is important to you now, then it is important to you now. And you need to make sure that it is a part of your life now. You have one life to live it, all of it. And you can balance the job search demands that we talked about last time with the broader things that you need to do to live your life more generally. But you want to know what happened when he got a job? Then he said, dang, I'm working all the time and commuting all the time, and I'm so tired, so I don't have any time to play cricket. It's like, how much are you going to allow these things that are important in your life to just be pushed aside? You've got the time, take the time. Part of being ready to perform when it is time to apply, when it's time to interview, and then when it's time to actually begin the job itself is being right in your mind. And I was also talking with a different client recently about this idea that if you end up kind of like pinching all of your life off and just focusing on work, or in this case, job applications, then the only kind of rejuvenation that you're allowing yourself is maybe sleep. And that's going to help you with some degree of like fatigue regeneration and physical restoration a little bit. It is not going to re-enrich the soul, and that soul will feel that, and it will affect things.
Yeah. And how are you going to show up for that job interview once you actually get in the room? Like, you need to come up for air at some point. If we're continuing with this ocean metaphor, floating in the ocean metaphor, like if you 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, are just applying for jobs, and doing the other things we mentioned in the first installment of this, oh my gosh, you're going to be a cranky person, I'd imagine.
Yep.
Yeah. And you're not going to show up as your best self. And I think people, for better or worse, they pick up on people's energy when they come in the room, right? And so when you're applying for a job and you're sending in those applications, I mean, I felt this as an actor. People can sniff out desperation. People can sniff out pessimism. So I just, as much as people, like, yes, it feels like a dire time because, yeah, money's not coming in. You're the person that's supposed to put food on the table. It's scary. It is. And I really do think that if you let yourself come up for air, like, your whole process of applying to jobs is going to be better.
And let's say that you are dead set on being desperate and just wedding yourself to the agony of the not having. Let's say that you were just dead set on tormenting yourself over this. I don't recommend that, but let's say that I can't convince you to stop that. Could I convince you that if there are 7 days in the week and 24 hours a day, that you could set it aside for a couple of hours and then just go back to it later? You know, like if you go and play Parcheesi for a few hours with your friends, you're welcome to return to your desperation and agony and torment after that. That's fine. It's not fine. Don't do that. But if you're dead set on doing it, then fine. And in the meantime, you know, the majority of your time is spent worrying about the thing that you're worried about. So if you really feel like the worry and the desperation and the fear is motivating for you, we'll talk, one, but two, fine, just not all hours of the day.
Yes, I agree. Can you allow yourself just a little part of the day? I think you can.
And life is finally giving you some time. We're constantly in this society telling you that you don't have enough time. We don't have enough time. Now you have some time. Do something with it.
Yes. That's such a good point. Yeah, the example you gave of the person who's like, man, okay, I got the job now, I can't play cricket. It's like, you just had a bunch of time. But yeah, it's so interesting. Okay, so one way to cope is, to tend to the things that do light you up, other areas of your life that do light you up in the process of applying for jobs. Don't forget you have a full life going. What else are we thinking?
I also think that we have to remember that identity is a broad structure that is connected to many parts of life, those substances that we were kind of talking about previously, and often relationships. This is a great time to spend time with people. Now, I understand that there's sometimes some financial constraints around this, but that doesn't mean that there is a complete removal of options. At the very least, you probably can afford to call somebody or chat with them on Facebook or something of that nature. And so spending a little bit of time hanging out with people is a decent way to spend some time. And I also want to say, if you are stressed about a job and you go and spend time with your friends and you do not talk about not having a job, that will help you with the job stress. It feels counterintuitive. You feel like this is the thing I'm worried about. It's the only thing on my mind. And if you need some verbal processing, that's fine. But it's not the only way to cope. And part of the reason why going and talking about other things that are unrelated to the thing you're worried about helps you with the thing that you're worried about, the reason why that happens is through identity cohesion and solidification. So I am many things, including a friend, including a D&D player or something of that nature. And so going and playing D&D with my friends lets me be me and sort of tethers me to the other parts of my life. And so you really have to think more globally and more broadly about the entirety of your psychology, the entirety of your identity, and connect with all of the pieces of that.
Yes. And I wonder, this brings up an interesting question. Like, let's say you are a workaholic of sorts, and after you lose your job, you realize, oh man, I don't really have many people in my life, and I haven't called my mom in months. I don't really have any like close friends. Like, I didn't realize how much my job was everything in my life.
Right. And same thing happens with hobbies. So often I talk to Americans about the entirety of their life and, what are their hobbies? And it's like, am I allowed to say TikTok?
Yeah, like nothing. Yeah. Yeah. No, it's so true. So it can really put into perspective, like, oh man, I really was making my job my whole life, my whole identity. And is that what I meant to do with my life? Or did I just fall into that? Right.
That's exactly the question. Because so often we end up kind of being told who we're supposed to be. So then we be that. And then we lose that. And we're like, I'm not getting a chance to be what I meant to be. It was never yours to begin with. It was given to you, which I think is a broader conversation about where this idea of provider and identity related to work kind of comes from. It's a very capitalistic idea, or even if it's not capitalistic, because, even back in the day, you would have John the Baker became John Baker, right? Like, so, I mean, the very idea of surnames came from trade in many cases. So it's not purely capitalistic, I suppose, but it is a particular way of thinking about humans, is that what I do is who I am. And it doesn't need to be that way. I think that what you do could just be a thing you do. It could just be a thing that you have to deal with during certain hours of the day so that you can go and live the rest of your life. And I'll also say I do think that other cultures do a better job of this in some cases, not all, but in some cases. I was recently watching a documentary about the Marshall Islands and just the kind of collectivism of the people of the Marshall Islands in particular. And I don't know I watched one documentary. I don't know the nuances of Marshallese culture here. But in general, you got the sense that the kind of communal nature of that lifestyle was far less tied to status. I remember one of the anecdotes that was brought up in the documentary in particular was the idea of, if I have a fish, we have a fish. If I have a plot of land, we have a plot of land. And so this idea of individual ownership, which I think comes into like, I own my money, I own my title, I own my job, I own my status, that kind of stuff. All of that is kind of not there. And another one of the ones they brought up was this idea of, if you that somebody had an island like all to themselves, sort of, except it was shared amongst their entire family. And so like, who owns this island is kind of a weird question for them. It's like, it's our family's here. What do you mean? Like, everybody's here. We're all here. So this is like, it's shared. It's not mine.
Which is so interesting, because I feel like in the US, everything is like mine, mine, mine.
Put a fence around it.
Yeah. But it's interesting.
And I really love to kind of dabble in both worlds here a little bit. I encourage people to do it. So like, simultaneously, I want to watch the documentaries that are kind of about how the Marshallese community thinks. And then I also started watching some like HOA Karen videos, because it's the exact opposite, right? Like, exactly, let me make sure that I get a land survey so that I know exactly where my fence posts are supposed to be, is the exact opposite mentality. And I just kind of want to know how each of these people thinks. It's this idea of possessing material things, but also possessing status. And so this is a harder job to do with respect to like a job, but you can begin to deconstruct where some of these ideas have come from and why you hold them so fiercely, and whether you need to, because you don't necessarily need to.
Yeah, no, it's so interesting. Because yeah, I think at least in the US, this idea of like possessing things is because like the possession of such things like says something about our identity or our status or whatever. And so we're like, okay, this is mine. So then everyone can see that I am this thing. Versus,
and if I get it, then I'm happy.
Yes. Versus the Marshallese,
Marshall Islands, yeah.
Okay, it seems like they don't tether their identity to possessions as much.
Certainly not.
Do in the
I mean,
US,
and it's hard because obviously we should also note that, you know, people of a nation like the Marshall Islands do just have substantially less, but it is also very much an intentional pursuit to acquire.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very much a thing for, I think, especially the capitalistic cultures, the more capitalistic cultures, to just voraciously consume and acquire and acquire and acquire. We've mentioned Bhutan on the podcast before, with the idea of like, we're not going to publish a gross domestic product that's gross. Instead, I will tell you a bit about our gross domestic happiness, which we probably didn't figure out a good way to measure.
But still, I like the intention. I also wonder about, because I think you briefly mentioned this, I feel like there are people that just treat a job as a means to an end. Like, I just need money to live so I can do all the other things that I mean to do with my life: hobbies, travel, relationships, whatever. And that's interesting in contrast to the person who does make their whole life about the career, right? I don't know. I think US is like, what's the saying? In the US, we live to work, and other places you work to live.
Right. And I think that's exactly it. It's so taught to us that, you know, like, why do you go to school? Well, so you can go get a job. Why do you get a job? So you can live a happy life. And like, I feel like that was just force fed to all of us. And nobody says, well, what if you just do a job, have enough, and are contented with the rest of your life? And I, you know, especially in the improv and acting world, I have come across a few people who much more said, like, I had the job, I had the one that paid the 6-figure salary, and I hated it, and so I quit. I tended bar and I do improv. And at least from the outside, they seem happier. Like, who's figured this out?
It's so interesting. Yeah, because I've talked to people who, like, for instance, okay, so they got let go from a job that was a higher paying, higher status job, right? And in the meantime, they're really struggling to get that next job that's around the same sort of level. And even the suggestion of, well, in the meantime, if you're really struggling, why don't you go, work at the grocery store as a clerk? And they're like, no, I can't do that.
That's beneath me.
Beneath me. That's not like
Such an American mentality.
who would I be if I did that?
Exactly. What would my family think?
What would people think? Who would I be then? What does that say about my identity? Like, and it's, even if I make the argument, no, it's just an interim position. It's just a means to an end right now. Like, it's not forever. It doesn't mean anything about you. It's just to get the money that you need right now to live. There's still such a resistance of doing that, to take this lower, in quotes, position, right? Because it's all about status.
Right, absolutely. And again, that becomes relational because it's very much like, what do I communicate to people? If you're going on a first date with someone, it's harder to tell them that you have a job that is traditionally looked down upon by society, even if it's better paying. And again, like, families have opinions. We've certainly had clients where their family said, you're going to be a doctor. And it's like, I don't want to be a doctor. Yeah, that's funny. You're going to be a doctor. So, I mean, there's these kind of outside pressures shaping us and forcing us down certain pathways. But then we internalize that. We adopt that as our own. And I think that's partly where the kind of interest lies here, is like, how much do you kind of take this in as a piece of yourself?
Mm.
You do have some control over that as an individual.
Yeah. Yeah, especially oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry. I was going to say, I love being a psychologist. I really, really love it. But it is work, and there are times that I get tired of it. And I think being only that would feel rather incomplete to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I would imagine I get to be in a very lucky position where I'm able to compartmentalize different aspects of my life. But I do encourage people to seize the opportunities they do have for doing that. We were talking about conversations at parties earlier. What do you do? I've really taken to what I prefer is like, what do you enjoy talking about? And sometimes that's work. Sometimes people go to work. Sometimes they'll talk about something completely different. Somebody recently, when I asked that question, told me that they are in something of a debate club and they wanted to talk about the debates that they were having at debate club. I have no idea what that guy does for a living. I have no clue. And I think that's interesting, right? Like, by the way, most of the time when I ask that question to people, they have no idea what to say. I'm like, what are you talking about? So it's just confusing, but whatever, right? I think that this fusion of work and self is rather automatic. And I just encourage you, whether you're employed, unemployed, seeking employment, used to have employment, love your job, hate your job, what else are you?
And if you can't answer that question, then I think that's an interesting place to start, right?
Yeah, go be something else. Go start a Parcheesi club.
Go do something else. Because do you want to spend your whole life just working? If not, if that's not what you mean to do, then figure out what else you want to do with your life.
And if you do, then fine. But know what you're giving up.
Right. In some ways, even though being unemployed is absolutely scary, absolutely stressful, it can be an interesting turning point, right? And even an opportunity for just like pause and reflection of like, am I actually doing with my life what I mean to do with my life? Am I going in the direction that I actually want to be going in? Because now I can choose what my next path is here with work. I can go anywhere I want. Like your friend, like, decided to be a bartender instead. I could choose that, if I started in a corporate job and I lost it. Like, you you don't have to do a job that was similar to the last job that you left. So
Yeah,
yeah.
and a thing that I like to do in my life as well around these sorts of things is, let's say I've got some ambition, some passion, something that I want to accomplish in my world, and it's going to require other people giving me permission. I love, in my own head, I will say, dare you to tell me no. To the world, right? I want to do this, so I'm going to do this. If you tell me no, fine. But otherwise, I'm doing this. And I think that's a helpful mentality where I'm going to try and the universe is going to tell me whether it works or it doesn't. I don't have control over whether it works or it doesn't. I have control over try, and I have control over listening to the feedback that I get.
Absolutely. Yeah. Do you want to try? And if you get rejected, do you want to try again?
Exactly.
That's what's in
So
your
you're
control.
welcome. You're welcome to take shots at rare things or unlikely things or something else like that. Listen to the feedback that the world gives you.
Yeah. Is there anything else we want to hit with this topic? We talked about identity. We talked about status. Any thoughts on this idea of failure, being a failure? If we,
I think
lose our job?
I think with respect to the failing piece of it, I just want to encourage all of society at this point to think destructively about some of these strictures we hold in our minds about the way that things are organized and what's important versus what isn't important and why we do certain things. I really do think that taking a deconstructive perspective on these things can be really quite illuminating for people. One of my favorite questions here is, who taught you that? So I need this in order to have that. Who taught you that connection? You probably can find an answer. There's probably a specific person somewhere along the way that delivered that kind of message. And it's worth examining. Maybe you end up with the exact same mentality at the other end of this conversation. That's fine. But you'll grow a little bit by exploring and destroying some of those mentalities.
Yeah, absolutely. I think especially when it comes to like failure, I think we talked about this in a recent podcast, just like the idea of being a failure as sort of a label is sort
Yes.
of like a systemic cultural idea, I think I also just want to validate for people that, like, especially if this was a job that was a pillar of your identity, you did find a lot of purpose and fulfillment in, there's going to be a period of grief for sure. Like, grief is not just for the death of someone. Like, this is a loss, it's a loss of like a part of you. So taking the time to be in your big old feelings, and like we suggested, like tending to the other parts of yourself. And if there are no other parts of yourself, find those other parts of yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. Be a whole person, not a part of a person.
There you go. All right. I hope this was helpful. I liked the conversation today. Okay. Dun, da, da, da. I hope I'm remembering to do that every time. I'm not sure if I did that last time, but okay. New quote. Head can choose heart, but heart can't choose head. So interesting. Well, I remember you saying something like, when it comes to dating, like dating with your big ass brain or something.
Yeah.
And so I think it's true that like your brain can choose to lead with your heart and to choose the desires of your heart. But if you are only in your heart, you can't really hear your head. I don't know. That's how I'm.
Exactly. Yeah,
Okay,
I
great.
think that's exactly it. Yeah, because you are allowed to take a fanciful, whimsical, prance in the rain kind of risk as long as you've thought about one, you're allowed to do it anyway, but I would encourage thinking about how you will deal with failure and what rhetoric you might need to remind yourself of if some of these heart-laden risks don't go your way. Anytime I ever take one of these more fanciful risks in my life, I try very much to, like, as I'm taking the risk, start to script out what I'm going to say to myself if it fails. And it's usually, worth a shot. I can deal with disappointment, which also means I encourage people to practice dealing with disappointment, practice dealing with grief and loss and hardship, continuing to practice those things. I can deal. And the people around me will help me deal because they're very good at that. And so I just think that you're allowed to take certain fanciful risks that people might even, raise an eyebrow at. I just encourage you to kind of think through it a little bit. Don't intellectualize your heart, but intellectualize around it and then go with heart. It's fine.
I like that. I like that framing. Such an interesting. Did you come up with that?
Which part?
The whole quote.
Maybe? I don't know.
Okay.
I think so. I'm not sure.
Just wondering the origins.
No.
All right. Well, this has been a great podcast today. I hope this was helpful. If any of you are struggling with the job application process, it's hard out there, and we feel for you.
It's hard. You don't have to be hard on yourself.
There you go. Say that again. It's hard. You don't have to be hard on yourself. Like, it's hard enough as it is already. Like, don't put pain on top of pain.
Yeah.
There
Go
you
play Parcheesi with your friends.
Go play Parcheesi or D&D or whatever you like to play.
Go play with your friends.
Go play with your friends. All right. As always, if you're interested in our services, head on over to delvepsych.com, DELVEPSYCH.com for a free consultation call. Follow us on all the things on Instagram at delvepsychchicago and Substack at delvepsych.substack.com. We'll see you guys next week.
Bye.
Bye.